Welcome back. Now, before moving forward, let's talk about what is our gut and what is the science of digestion. Who made the digestive system? There were three engineer students and they were discussing what sort of God must have designed the human body. The first says, God must be a mechanical engineer. Look at all the joints, how perfectly they're attached. The second one says, I think God must be an electrical engineer. The nervous system has thousands of electrical connections. The third one, the smart one, said, actually, God is a civil engineer. Who else would run a toxic waste pipe through a human body? Hello, I am your God. Jokes apart, let's understand how our digestive system works. So, what's the ideal with the gut health? Well, it's all about well being of our entire digestive system, from the esophagus to the bowel. This system is responsible for breaking down our food into essential nutrients that fuel our bodies. It's like the engine that powers us up. Our digestive system consists of mouth, esophagus, stomach, smaller intestine, larger intestine, liver, gallbladder, pancreas. And different parts of our gut produces different digestive juices, like our stomach and the gallbladder, that helps us digest our food better. But where actually the digestion starts, it starts in our mouth. The mechanical breakdown of food will start in the mouth. Even before we start eating, the smell of the food and how palatable your food looks helps to release digestive juices in the mouth even before you have put the food in your mouth. Food gets mixed up with the saliva, the enzymes, and the antibodies, and chewing well reduces the chances of gas and eliminative imbalances. Chewing well also helps in better digestion and absorption of your food. Just remember, whenever you are eating, that your stomach does not have teeth, but your mouth does. So just make sure you chew your food very well. After chewing our food, the food goes from our esophagus to the stomach. Stomach is like a stretchy bag or a balloon that holds our food and secretes digestive or gastric juices. Now, these juices gives our food like an acid bath to kill any harmful organism, any harmful bacteria, virus. It's actually good for us if we have some stomach acid. It's not good when our stomach acid is low because otherwise all the bacteria and viruses will be thriving. They will just pass through our stomach and they will be having a party down there. So for the bacteria and viruses to thrive, they need actually an alkaline environment. So it's very important that our stomach acid is in good condition. We'll talk more about it as we move forward. Stomach breaks down protein to amino acids, and partially digested food turns to a form of a liquid. We call it chyme. Drinking fluids with your meals can dilute the stomach acid actually and slow down that process. Our stomach also have a thick mucus lining that actually protect us from the strong acids. So the acid that is released in the stomach is only for the food and not for the, so the lining of the stomach is protected. Eating wrong foods like alcohol, smoking, stress can damage the mucus lining and create ulcers. So imagine having a very acidic environment in your stomach, and it is not, if your lining, the stomach lining is not protected, it's gonna damage that lining. So the mucus lining is very important. And we have to make sure that we eat the right foods to make sure the lining is in the good condition. From our stomach, the food goes to a smaller intestine. Now, it's a lot of fun information when we hear about the small intestine and the large intestine. Actually, the length of the intestines can vary greatly among individuals, but research suggests that small intestine can measure up to 20 to 22 feet. Imagine that the basketball hoop is about 10 feet long. Imagine you having about 20 feet of intestines in your stomach, all jumbled up. How are they even residing? For some people, must be thinking how it's actually being there in our gut. But the diameter of the smaller intestine is actually smaller. It's 1 inch. That's why it's called smaller intestine. Digestive juices from our pancreas and gallbladder are released into the smaller intestine that breaks down the carbohydrates, protein, and fat in more absorbable form. So basically, the 90% of the nutrients are absorbed and released in our whole body through the smaller intestine. Unlike our stomach, small intestine are a little bit alkaline and they cannot kill any bad bacteria, viruses, or pathogens. So if any bacteria makes it to the small intestine, it won't be killed. You may have heard the word SIBO, small intestine bacterial overgrowth, which means you have the overgrowth of the bacteria, or the bacteria has migrated to the smaller intestine where it should not be residing. And that's when we have all the problems of bloating and nausea and gas and different kind of gut issues. Now, diarrhea also is one of the symptoms, or feeling of fullness or stomach distension, bloating in a way that where you feel that you are pregnant, and many more symptoms. As stomach has the mucous membrane, small intestine has a villi, or like a hair-like structure that actually protects them. Poorly digested food, alcohol, overuse of certain medication, and stress can destroy those hair-like projections, and that creates more issue in the smaller intestine, allowing the toxic waste substance to pass through the blood barrier, often called as leaky gut. So when all the food or the toxins are leaking through the lining, that's when we get more. It's called leaky gut, but that's when we get more inflammation in our gut, in our whole body eventually. That shows itself as, of course, gas, bloating, more susceptible for allergies, sinuses issue, body aches and pain. That is the inflammation that caused in the body as an outer symptom. But for the gut, mainly allergies, candida, yeast, having problem with constipation, malabsorption of nutrients, certain nutrients, all of these problems can exist if there is a problem with the smaller intestine. Now, after the smaller intestine, food has to filter through the liver. Liver is like our body's chemical factory. It takes the raw material absorbed by the intestine and makes it to the makes all the various chemicals their body needs for the different bodily function. The liver also detoxify potentially harmful chemicals. It breaks down and secrete many drugs that can be toxic to our body. The liver also detoxify any other toxins that are coming from food. Think of liver as filtration system. If you have a filtration system in your kitchen for water filtration, basically that's the job of the liver, to filter out any impurities and then distribute it throughout your body for energy and for different functions. So let's go to the large intestine now. Now, usually large intestine is actually smaller in length. It's smaller than the small intestine. It's 5 to 6 feet long. But the reason why it's called large intestine, because it is 3 inches in diameter. Imagine that if you are like sleeping on a queen size bed, that is 5 to 6 feet long. That's how long your large intestine is. It's just hard to sometimes comprehend how the 20 feet long intestine can reside in our body, right? So we also call larger intestine as colon. It's a holding tank for our waste product. And water and electrolytes are absorbed to make our bowel movements smoother. If the waste moves through the larger intestine too quickly, water is not absorbed, resulting in diarrhea. If waste does not move through large intestine normally, and we don't have enough water or hydration in the larger intestine, the stools will become hard and we will get constipation. Mucus is also secreted over there so to lubricate the bowel movement, so there is no issue in eliminating the bowels. You don't want hard bowels, you want softer bowels. Larger intestine is a hub of intestinal bacteria, with having more trillions of bacteria residing in our intestine. And there could be good or bad bacteria. That's what takes me to talk about gut microbiome. That is something I really want to talk about because not too many people are aware of this. Imagine a big, high populated city like New York, and you are on a Monday morning just going to work, and the city is filled with people rushing to work for their appointments, where people working at the train station, people working at the grocery stores. Now, picture this in a very, very tiny scale inside of our body. That's how our microbiome looks like, a community of trillions and trillions of microorganisms, including bacteria, viruses, fungi, parasites. In a healthy person, these bugs peacefully coexist. Like in a city, both good and bad people coexist. People are walking, doing their chores, they are running, they are honking, but they're still in the same city. They live in mainly in our intestine, but also throughout our all body also. So we have both good and bad bacteria. But the idea here is to make sure we have a population of good bacteria, which is higher in number than the bad bacteria. So if there is anything bad the bad guys are trying to do, the right guys or the rightful guys or the bugs that are trying to protect our inner city can fight them off. That's why having a good gut microbiome is extremely important for our overall health. Each person has a completely individualized network of microorganisms known as microbiota, which is initially determined by DNA. So as an infant, we first encounter the microorganism when we are having a delivery, when we are born. Through the vaginal delivery, we have a different set of bacteria, which is very good for our gut health. And through the C-section, we usually get the bacteria that's coming from the skin. So vaginal delivery actually is very important in building a very good, healthy microbiome. And also it depends upon the health of the mother as well. Breastfeeding is next, where the baby gets to start the colony of the good gut bacteria. So having vaginal delivery, breastfeeding, that's creates the foundation for how your gut microbiome is going to be in the beginning of the years. But as we move forward, the environmental factors, the diet, it may, depending upon what choices are we making, the healthy or poor choices, having too much sugar or eating our gut bacteria. So as we feed ourselves, actually we are feeding our gut bacteria so it can multiply and grow in numbers and fight off the bad ones. So it's very important to understand what kind of food we are eating. So I just want to talk about women's unique digestive system, why women's gut health matters. That is very important because there is a difference between men and women digestive system. Stomach. The good news for women is our doorways are strong. So when we, as we talked about before, the food moves from the esophagus to stomach and stomach to the smaller intestine. The door up there and door down there in the stomach is very strong, as if somebody is banging the door, shutting it off, and it stays like that. So women in general should have very less incidence of acid reflux, unless it is caused by a disease or something. But usually women are less susceptible to having that acid coming up in our esophagus and having that burning sensation. It's more common in men. But at the same time, we just have to make sure the muscles, the muscles are working fine. We'll talk more about that, in our upcoming modules. In women, especially those who haven't reached menopause yet, this muscle squeezes shut with the more force compared to men. So our muscles are stronger when it comes to shutting off the door. So it's the women's superpower that helps her to keep the digestive juices intact in the stomach. In terms of the larger intestine, the colon in the women is actually around 10 centimeter longer than in men. Here is another fun fact. A woman's colon has to share spaces with the bladder and the reproductive organs. And let's not forget about pregnancy that can really mess with a woman's colon health and how it functions. It's a big deal. So we have to know and understand that we are different. We are different than men, and our needs are different. Women can experience different GI symptoms depending upon where they are in their menstrual cycle. It's like a roller coaster ride. For example, when it's that time of the month, research has shown that some women become more sensitive to their internal organ. It's like they're on a high alert. During a period, the body releases a compound called prostaglandins, complicated name, you don't have to remember, just remember a hormone. These little troublemakers make the uterus contract. But guess what? They can also cause the nearby organs like the colon and the small intestine to contract as well. It's like a squeezing sensation that can lead to cramps and diarrhea, or for some women, it's relief from constipation because suddenly now they have a really good bowel movement. Many of you, I know, during periods your bowel movements are really good. You're just very happy that you don't have constipation anymore. But for some of you, you may have diarrhea. It can be a combo. Now, in other phases of the cycle, there is a hormone called progesterone that takes the stage. This hormone has a way of making muscles chill out and relax. But here's one thing, when muscles relax, things can slow down. Yes, I'm relaxing, so I'm not going to have a bowel movement. That's why some women experience bloating and constipation during those phases. It's like the system goes into slow motion mode. So, depending upon the time of the months for women and the stages of life, women's body go through different adventures within symptoms like cramping, diarrhea, bloating, constipation. We are mysterious creatures. Awesome creatures. Let's talk about the women's pelvic floor. This is something very important. As I was mentioning before in the previous slide, that we do have a uterus and bladder and the bowel. The pelvic floor is a bunch of muscle and ligament that hold up the bladder, uterus, and the bowel together. It's like a support system down there. And guess what? The openings from these organs, like the urethra or the bladder, the vagina from the uterus, and the anus from the bowel, all go through the pelvic floor. It's like a pathway for everything to come and go. So we do have that protection, like a bowl kind of a thing where all the organs sit, which men doesn't have. But it also means we just have to make sure we have a good pelvic floor. The only person that I would be concerned about pelvic floor, if you have uncontrollable bowel movements, you have to rush to the bathroom, make sure you check with the PCP, check with the gastro doctor if you do have pelvic floor issues. But this is something I just wanted to mention here because this is very unique to women. But one way to strengthen your pelvic floor muscles, sit comfortably and squeeze the muscles 10 to 15 times. It's like squeezing your down there, like a Kegel exercise. If you were, if when we are pregnant, I remember going to the Lamaze classes and they were teaching the Kegel exercises. Basically, you just have to comfortably sit and squeeze the muscle 10 to 15 times. Do not hold your breath or tighten your stomach or bottom or thighs at the same time. When you get used to doing the pelvic floor exercises, you can try holding each squeeze for a few seconds. So Basically, you're squeezing your pelvic floor or down there, that area, squeezing up and squeezing out, squeezing up and squeezing out. This is a pelvic, this is just to make your pelvic floor stronger. And you can definitely, check with your doctor. I would recommend if there are issues for uncontrollable bowel movements or the motions. But we are unique, and so is our gut. So, women, we need special attention to take care of our gut. So, as we move forward, we will be talking more about it. I will talk to you soon in the next one.